Upon rebirth, I awoke kneeling at Xiaorong's feet. Those around me laughed at me loudly. In my previous life, to stop Xiaorong's betrothal, I threw myself headfirst at the stone lion guarding his family's gate. I didn't die, but I was paralyzed for 7 years. During those 7 years, Xiaorong married, had children, and rose swiftly through the ranks. Meanwhile, I was left with bedsores covering my entire body, suffering until I died from the agony. This time around, I resolved to spare Xiaorong and spare myself. The jeers jolted me awake. Opening my eyes, I saw Xiaorong's cloud-patterned official boots before me. Lifting my gaze upward, I met his straight posture and resolute jawline. He didn't bend down, nor did he lower his head to look at me. This scene played out in my previous life. Back then, my pleas fell on deaf ears. In a fit of desperation, I threw myself at the stone lion and slammed into it. What had I shouted then? Xiaorong, don't you dare regret this. The truth is, Xiaorong never once regretted it. The one filled with regret was me. For 7 long years, I heard of his marriage, his children, his promotions, while I lay alone in bed, smelling the stench of my own incontinence, enduring the agony of festering bedsores, and slowly withering away. Xiaorong didn't love me. Or rather, he loved himself more, loved his career more. These truths took me 7 agonizing years to grasp. Now, I released his clothes and stood up, laughing wildly. Miss Zhao, you're not planning to kneel yourself to death here, are you? Even if you did, he wouldn't marry you. Who would pass up a noble lady to marry a merchant's daughter? Exactly. You should know your place. Clinging to him day after day only brings you shame. Yes, shame. Just as Xiaorong said. I was stubborn and foolish. I lifted my eyes to Xiaorong. He was looking at me too. Our gazes met. I smiled at him and took a step forward. Xiaorong. I leaned slightly and said to him, may you get what you wish for. Truly. Be happy. He froze, surprise flitting across his face. I didn't want to dwell on his reaction, nor did I want to linger here. Brushing dust from my knees, I pushed through the crowd and left. A murmur of bewilderment rippled through the crowd. Why did she suddenly leave? Has Miss Zhao finally come to her senses? If she truly understood and stopped clinging to Magistrate Xiao, I'd eat wall plaster on my knees. Without pausing, I returned home under everyone's probing stares. 12 years ago, passing by a dilapidated courtyard, I encountered a frail boy. He was only 6 that year, curled up in a corner, skin stretched taut over bones. His dark eyes met mine, a stubborn gaze that stirred pity. I begged my father to bring him home. From that day on, Xiaorong lived in our house, becoming part of our family. 6 years ago, my father went out to collect payment for goods. While crossing a mountain, he was swept away by a flash flood. His body was never found. My mother fell gravely ill because of this and passed away 3 months later. From then on, 13-year-old me and 12-year-old Xiaorong relied on each other for survival. He was exceptionally bright, excelling in his studies. His teacher often praised him, calling him the reincarnation of the literary star. Xiaorong did not disappoint us, becoming the youngest Triple Crown champion in the imperial examinations of our dynasty. On the day he passed the highest level, we wept and embraced, celebrating that we had finally made it through. For the past 6 years, while Xiaorong studied, I devoted myself entirely to managing the winery my father left behind. I worked dawn to dusk, never getting a full night's sleep. My hands and feet were perpetually cracked and bleeding, the pain excruciating. Whenever this happened, Xiaorong would hold me tightly and grit his teeth, saying, "No matter what it takes, I will make sure you live a life above others. Now. We have finally made it through. Amidst the neighbors' congratulations, someone asked Xiao Rong, "Are you and Zhao Dongjia getting married this year?" My face flushed as I waited expectantly for his reply. He didn't respond with the enthusiasm I anticipated, but instead said indifferently, "I've just entered officialdom. There's no rush." I believed him when he said he was too busy navigating the bureaucracy to spare any attention for other matters. But then I heard the chief minister had betrothed his daughter to him, and Xiao Rong had readily accepted. This marriage of a talented man and a beautiful woman became the talk of the capital in no time. I couldn't believe it. It felt like being struck by lightning. That night, he didn't come home. He only sent a letter, which read, "Letting you live a good life and marrying you have become contradictory. Sister, I'm so tired. I hope you understand. I refuse to accept it. And I refuse to give up." That very day, I went to the magistrate's office to find him. He wouldn't see me. I waited outside the rented house he lived in. But to avoid me, he stopped returning home altogether. For 3 months straight, I wandered like a lost soul, haunting every place Xiao Rong might appear. This version of me became the laughingstock of the entire city. They spun vile tales about me. But I didn't care. I only wanted an answer. That day, Xiao Rong finally agreed to see me. He stood expressionless beneath his umbrella, gazing at me. "I thought you were the one who understood me best in this world. Sister, the path to officialdom is so difficult. I need an ally to help me achieve my ambitions." I couldn't believe my ears. "What about me?" He stood with lowered eyes in the needle-like rain, his voice distant as if separated by 1,000 mountains. "I'm sick of poverty. Sick of suffering. I want to rise above others. I want to trample those who bullied me underfoot." He lifted his gaze. "Sister, don't stand in my way." He turned away, his back cold and utterly alone. I collapsed to the ground, nearly screaming myself hoarse. From the age of 7, we were inseparable. From 13, we clung to each other for survival, becoming each other's sole reason to live. I never imagined we would part. So on the day of his engagement, I threw myself against the stone lion outside his new mansion. I crashed into it. He felt no regret, while I lived day and night in agony and remorse. Fortunately, heaven took pity on me and granted me a second chance. This time, I resolved to set him free, to let him soar high and become the man above all men. After months of wandering aimlessly, stalking him day and night, I had long since lost my human form. I boiled water for a bath, changed my clothes, and cooked a meal for myself, all my favorite dishes. Just as I was enjoying my meal, footsteps echoed in the courtyard. Xiao Rong appeared at the doorway. Our eyes met, both of us startled. "Back for something?" I asked him. "Nothing." Xiao Rong sat down at the table. After a moment, seeing I didn't invite him to join me, he fetched his own bowl and chopsticks. I continued eating alone. Ahem. Xiao Rong coughed, hurriedly pouring tea to rinse his mouth. "Why is it so spicy? When did you start eating spicy food?" I gave a mocking laugh. "I've always loved spicy food. I just didn't add chili when cooking because you don't eat it." Xiao Rong paused mid-sip, lifting his gaze to look at me quietly. "Sis, I was so afraid something would happen to you. I'm just glad you're okay." I took a sip of soup and smiled at him lightly. "I'm doing just fine. You're worrying too much." Xiao Rong tried to smile, but it never fully formed, leaving him looking awkward and dejected. I gathered the dishes and headed to the kitchen. While washing them, Xiao Rong stood outside, his voice low. "Sis, forget about me. I believe with your abilities, you'll do just fine." In another life, I would have made him remember the past 3,000 days and nights we shared. Begged him not to leave me alone to face this cold world. Besides him, I had no family left. But 7 years of paralysis had worn away all my illusions. Now, I only wish to live freely. No one matters to me anymore. Fine. I smiled at him, utterly unconcerned. May you rise swiftly through the ranks and fulfill your ambitions. Xiao Rong tugged at the corner of his mouth, a look of surprise and struggle flickering across his face. When I finished cleaning up and emerged, Xiao Rong had already left, leaving behind a banknote for 3,000 taels of silver on the table. Just like in my past life, he had sent me enough silver to ensure I'd never want for food or clothing. It was precisely these 3,000 taels that had allowed me to scrape by for 7 long years. In this life, I would still accept these 3,000 taels. He said it was to repay the debt of my nurturing him. Well, I certainly wouldn't refuse. From now on, we're even. After a restful night's sleep, I headed to the winery the next day. My energetic appearance surprised everyone. Madame Zhao no longer stood in the way of Magistrate Zhao's marriage. Seeing her unchanged, even brighter than before, I knew she was well. Who was it just the other day swearing that Mrs. Zhao would come around, even vowing to eat wall plaster on his knees? The 3 months I spent chasing Xiao Rong, stirring up a huge commotion, quietly faded into the past the moment I stepped back. My days now were a routine between the winery and home. Father's winemaking skills were passed down through the Zhao family, but he left us too suddenly. I never learned his craft. Later, by poring over his Zhao family winemaking techniques, I mastered one type of wine. These past years, my heart wasn't in it. I devoted myself entirely to caring for Xiao Rong, helping him fulfill his lifelong dream of passing the imperial examinations. Now that I no longer care about him, I've taken out the Zhao family winemaking manual once more and studied it carefully. I hope, within my lifetime, to revive the once world-renowned Luoshui Zhao family wine. Busy days flew by in a blur. Before I knew it, spring gave way to autumn, and the Zhao family winery launched its new bamboo leaf green liquor. I set up a long tasting counter on the street, inviting everyone in town, young and old, to sample it. Bamboo leaf green boasted a delicate fragrance and a refreshingly sweet taste, appealing to all ages. Thus, it quickly found its market. Amidst our joy, we were as busy as spinning tops, working non-stop. Just as our spirits soared, an order arrived at the winery. The eldest daughter of the chief minister was to be married, requiring 60 vats of bamboo leaf green, to be delivered before the Mid-Autumn Festival. The eldest daughter of the chief minister was getting married. That meant Xiao Rong was getting married. In my previous life, he had also married just before the Mid-Autumn Festival. Back then, I thought he would come and tell me. But in reality, he never came. Amidst everyone's worried gazes, I said lightly, "Don't worry. We will definitely deliver the wine on time." Before the Mid-Autumn Festival, I personally led my team to deliver the 60 jars. A servant guided us through a side gate. As we prepared to collect payment, a dignified and beautiful woman approached, surrounded by maidservants. "Are you Zhao Lanyu?" the woman asked me. Yes. I nodded to her. Zhao Lanyu of the Zhao family winery. She studied me silently for a moment before suddenly instructing an older woman, "Give her an extra 500 taels." After giving the order, she cast another indifferent glance my way before sweeping her sleeves and leaving. The Kai household maids turned to stare at me, giggling and teasing with open disdain. "Just a country bumpkin," they whispered. "Not worth half a finger of our young mistress." "Heh heh. Master." Juicy clenched his fists, grinding his back teeth. "What's she playing at? What's so great about her? Just got lucky with her birth. That's all." I neatly folded the 500 taels of silver she'd given me and let everyone out. She was born with good fortune, that's her skill. We may resent it, but we'll just have to swallow our pride. Juicy wiped away tears. Furious. I couldn't help but chuckle, a man nearly 8 feet tall, all muscle, crying like watering a garden. After leaving, I donated the 500 taels to the Xian Hall. Xiaorong and Kai Yuanyang's wedding was a grand affair, with half the imperial carriage decked in red for miles around. I didn't attend the ceremony, being busy with renovations for the new winery. The shop space had doubled, and tasks multiplied accordingly. Qin Wan, fearing I might be troubled, followed me around all day. I'm fine. Really. Stop hovering and get back to work. Qin Wan cried in frustration. Xiaorong is so cruel, changing his heart so easily. Doesn't he remember how you endured the cold, unraveling your own cotton coat to make him a thicker one? Doesn't he remember how you... I covered Qingjuan's mouth and tapped her forehead. You want me to forget. Yet you keep reminding me. What exactly do you want? Qingjuan murmured, unable to speak. After several days of hard work, I was utterly exhausted and rested beneath the pomegranate tree at home. This tree had sprouted from a seed Xiaorong had carelessly dropped 7 years ago. 7 years had passed. Yet the tree still only bloomed, never bearing fruit. Drowsy, I drifted off, only to jolt awake moments later. I sensed someone had been near. Yet when I searched, nothing remained. Strange. Approaching the gate, I saw the weathered courtyard door swaying slightly. Master! Qingwan ran over excitedly. Merchants from Qingzhou have ordered 1,000 jars of bamboo leaf green. You must go see them. 1,000 jars, enough to keep us busy for half a year. So for the next 6 months, the 4 of us lived at the winery, working with single-minded focus. During that time, I perfected the Leobagan. Ah! Zhuzi sucked in his breath. This wine is truly satisfying. The following spring, when we delivered the wine to Qingzhou, we also promoted Zhao's Leobagan in the northern regions. By mid-year, the Zhao winery's reputation had been firmly established. Everyone who saw me greeted me with smiles, calling me Master Zhao and playfully demanding a taste of my liquor. No one mentioned my foolish mistakes from the previous year. Moreover, I hadn't thought of Xiaorong in quite some time. He hadn't even needed to undergo external training. He'd been appointed directly as a court official in the capital and was now a high-ranking official of the 4th rank. Zhuzi felt a pang of envy. No wonder he'd chosen to climb the social ladder. It meant skipping 30 years of hard work compared to other officials. One day, while delivering wine to the prince consort's residence, I happened to see Princess Huiyang's grandson tumble from the roof. I caught the child barehanded. The princess invited me to dine at her estate, smiling as she asked if I had found a match. No. For now, I only wish to manage the winery well. I have no other thoughts. Princess Huiyang, however, was quite enthusiastic. She insisted on finding me a husband. After several polite refusals proved futile, I dared not say more, fearing she might think me ungrateful. Come tomorrow at noon, she said. I'll introduce someone to you. In my previous life, because I was interested in Xiaorong, I often paid the old woman who looked after me to buy the official court gazettes. Over those 7 years, I pored over every single court bulletin countless times and heard every rumor circulating through the streets and alleys. Thus, I knew Princess Huiyang's temperament well. She wasn't a warm-hearted person, on the contrary. During the subsequent 7 years of the 3 imperial princes' struggle for the throne, she displayed extraordinary ruthlessness. Such a Princess Huiyang, now enthusiastically arranging a husband for me simply because I saved her grandson? I didn't believe it. My judgment might be hasty, but I couldn't take the risk. The next day, my hand slipped while moving a wine jar, and it smashed onto my instep. fracturing the bone in my left foot. What did she say? I asked Qingwan, who had gone to the prince consort's residence to help me with the matter. Qingwan whispered. She was very displeased. She slammed the teacup down on the table with a clatter. It startled me. Princess Huiyang's attitude only strengthened my conviction. Moreover, when I left, I saw Jing Yongyi. Could the person the princess intends to introduce be him? I frowned, finding Qingwan's words highly plausible. Jing Yongyi, though the third master of the Bo family estate, was notorious as a dissolute playboy. He'd already outlived 2 wives, and his eldest son was a year older than me. Such a man was certainly no suitable match. Several days later, I heard news of Jing Yongyi's marriage to Princess Huiyang's personal maid. I breathed a long sigh of relief. I stopped delivering wine and focused solely on managing the shop. In August, the owner of the neighboring restaurant fell ill and wanted to sell his shop to return home. I bought his shop. On the day we reopened, all 6 of us cried with excitement. In my previous life, after I became paralyzed, the 5 of them struggled on for 2 years before finally having to disband. On the day I left, they wept by my bedside. Back then, I too regretted my actions. Why had I acted on impulse and attempted suicide? It had only harmed others and myself. This life was different. We had our own shop now, a large, spacious shop. Selling wine? Suddenly, a young man dressed in bluebird robes appeared at the door. Bluebird robes were the official attire of the Imperial Guard, the feathered forest guards. Zhuzi went to greet him. What wine would the officer like? How much? The man ordered 30 jars of Leobegan and requested delivery to the Western Garden. Zhuzi took Yingxiao to deliver the wine. I stood anxiously by the door waiting. 2 hours passed. Yet they still hadn't returned. Leaning on my cane, I went to the Western Garden with Qingwan. Standing at the gate, Qingwan's legs trembled. They were brutal, but surely wouldn't kill innocents indiscriminately. Besides, we're common folk, they'd have no reason to pick on us. The Imperial Guard served only the Emperor, answering to his command alone, and the current Emperor was notoriously suspicious and quick to rage. Thus, his executioners, the Imperial Guard, became a force feared by all. The ones who delivered wine this morning? The gate guard's face darkened instantly. Waiting. After another quarter hour, we were led inside. There, we saw Zhuzi and Yingxiao, beaten to a pulp, hanging lifelessly from the dragon gate frame. My head buzzed. What's going on? Why did you beat them? The wine was poisoned. The man who ordered the wine that morning stood before me, hands behind his back. You're the owner? You're just in time. Who ordered you to poison the wine? I shook my head. Even if I had been ordered, I wouldn't have known you'd come to buy wine today. Besides, you were here the whole time we were moving the wine. The man pressed his blade against my throat, his expression fierce. Are you saying I've wronged you? Yes. I lifted my chin. Or perhaps someone from your own ranks poisoned it. Either way, we wouldn't sabotage our own business by poisoning our own wine. Stubborn. The man paced a few steps, then suddenly thrust his sword straight at my abdomen. I shouted, I'll investigate. Having finally been given a second chance at life, I didn't want to die. I wanted to live, to fight for it. I'll investigate. I looked at him earnestly. I'll give you answers and clear my own name. The man snorted contemptuously. You investigate? Who do you think you are? Just then, I spotted a figure in crimson official robes walking along the distant corridor. He wore crimson robes, with a blue crane emblem on his chest. In the Western Garden, the only one permitted to wear crimson robes was Song Baichuan, the commander of the Imperial Guard. Lord Song. My resolve hardened. I called out to Song Baichuan. I implore you, Lord Song, to uphold justice. Song Baichuan was known throughout the capital as the cold-faced Lord of Death, a man who killed without batting an eye. Calling on him for justice was riskier still, but I had no other choice. I needed to clear my name and get Juzi and Ying Xiao out of here. Song Baichuan stopped in his tracks and turned to look at me. "What's the commotion?" the sword-wielding man bellowed, then turned back to explain to Song Baichuan. "Sir, the wine they delivered was poisoned." "No." I threw caution to the wind and shouted. "We're common folk. We trade just to scrape by. Even if you gave us 100 lives, we wouldn't dare poison your wine. There must be some misunderstanding. Please investigate." "Sir." Song Baichuan strode forward. As he neared, I caught sight of his features and inwardly marveled at such exquisitely chiseled lines. Xiao Rong was exceptionally handsome, yet Song Baichuan's beauty far surpassed his. My thoughts wavered briefly before I refocused, waiting for him to speak. My heart pounded wildly with fear. "Doing, was this your doing?" Song Baichuan nodded toward the dragon gate frame with his chin. Doing acknowledged it. Song Baichuan asked no further questions. His voice was deep, his tone neither high nor low, carrying an imposing weight that commanded respect without anger. "How do you intend to prove your innocence?" he suddenly asked me. I exhaled in relief, realizing he was willing to help. I looked up at Doing and demanded, "What poison did you use? Did it kill anyone?" He kept mentioning poison but never explained what kind it was. "Laxatives," Doing explained to Song Baichuan. 7 brothers drank it this afternoon. They all vomited and had diarrhea. I pressed on. "If they drank, they must have eaten. Why are you so certain the wine was tainted?" "The food was fine," Doing declared flatly. Finally, Song Baichuan took charge. They inspected all 7 dishes, nothing was wrong. The laxative was found in the teapot. "If it wasn't, then it wasn't. Now get out." Doing shooed us away. I stood at the doorway, staring at Song Baichuan. I'd long heard that the Western Garden handled matters impartially and never killed innocents without cause. Therefore, I implored the official to restore justice for my 2 servants. Song Baichuan looked at me, raising an eyebrow. Just as I braced myself for him to order me out, he instead instructed Doing, "The assailants shall receive 30 strokes of the court cane." Song Baichuan sent them to the clinic without expression, adding that their medical expenses would be charged to our account. With that, Song Baichuan suddenly asked me, "Are you satisfied?" I nodded. Satisfied. His handling of this was already fair. I dared not, nor could I, ask for more. Very well. Song Baichuan turned to leave, then halted abruptly, fixing Doing with a stare. "You 2 shall receive punishment, double the punishment." With that, he departed. I stood in the courtyard as the late autumn wind swept through, sending shivers down my spine. Doing ordered the men to take Juzi and Ying Xiao to the clinic, leaving 200 taels for medical expenses before leaving. "That scared the life out of me," Qingwan wailed. "The West Garden is terrifying." I slumped into a chair, my foot throbbing so badly I could barely stand. But compared to the terror I'd just endured, it felt insignificant. With Juzi and Ying Xiao recovering, I had to go out delivering wine. My frequent outings brought news. Jing Yongyi's new bride, tortured to the brink of death, had hanged herself while barely clinging to life. Xiao Rong had been promoted again, and Kai Yuanwang was expecting. Qingwan still trembled with fear, saying it was fortunate I'd broken my leg that day and avoided Jing Yongyi. Had I truly submitted to Princess Huayang, I would have been the one thrown into the fire pit. That day, as I was loading wine onto the cart, a carriage passed before our gate. The wind whipped open the curtain, and my gaze met that of the person inside. I quickly lowered my eyes. The carriage stopped not far away. Xiao Rong and Kai Yuanyang stepped out. This is a good location. Kai Yuanyang and Xiao Rong stood side by side. A perfect match. Yet Xiao Rong had grown noticeably thinner. His once vibrant energy now diminished. Xiao Rong said nothing. Kai Yuanyang smiled and told him, "Now you can rest assured, she's doing very well." Xiao Rong glanced at me once, remarked it was cold outside, and motioned for Kai Yuanyang to return to the carriage. Very well. Kai Yuanyang instructed the old woman to hand me a silver note for 500 taels. "Sister, keep this. Should you ever face hardship, come find us." The maidservant fumbled the banknote as she handed it over, and it fell to the ground. "We mean well," I said, picking up the note. "But we're managing to scrape by for now. There's no need for you two to trouble yourselves." Kai Yuanyang seemed satisfied. She smiled with dignified grace, then walked away with her head held high. Once they were out of earshot, Qingwan began cursing loudly. "Donate the money to the Xian Hall," I said. The day after meeting the Xiao Rong couple, an unexpected visitor arrived at the shop. Xing Yongyi sat at the counter, grinning as he asked me to pour him wine. "If your foot hadn't been injured that day, we'd be husband and wife now." I found him utterly repulsive but had to endure it. After all, running a business meant dealing with powerful people like him. They could easily use their influence to make life difficult for me. In the capital, survival is impossible without backing. A commoner girl like me, lacking beauty or talent, could never hope to climb higher. Yet from that day on, Xing Yongyi came to the tavern daily, pestering me with increasingly brazen and frivolous behavior. It must be Kai Yuanwang's doing. She knew Princess Huayang had previously intended to introduce Xing Yongyi to you, and now she deliberately sent him to harass you. Yesterday I even saw her old servant watching the spectacle from across the street. When Xing Yongyi came again, I was checking the accounts. Suddenly, he grabbed my hand, pulled me close, and kissed me. "Just marry me. I'll treat you better than Magistrate Xiao ever did." It took all my strength not to smash the abacus in his face. Instead, I smiled, poured him wine, and casually asked, "Third master, what can copper be used for?" His playful expression vanished instantly. "What copper? Where did you see it?" "The day I delivered wine. I saw a boat at Qingying Lake loaded with copper." I muttered while wiping the table. "It's nearly sinking the ship." Xing Yongyi's eyes darted about. Today he lingered only 15 minutes before hurrying away. 2 days later, Xing Yongyi was arrested by the Imperial Guard. I don't know if his arrest was connected to that ship's copper, but I know that copper was connected to Xiao Rong. And if it's connected to Xiao Rong, it's connected to Chief Minister Kai. And if it's connected to Chief Minister Kai, then it's connected to the second prince's affairs. What I don't understand is why the Imperial Guard got involved. Could it be that the second prince is privately minting coins? But what would he need so much money for? To raise an army? A vague unease began to stir within me. 2 days later, as I sampled new wine in the rear courtyard, a group strode in. The matter I'd feared for days had finally arrived. Mr. Zhao. Song Baichuan entered at a leisurely pace, pausing before the wine vats. He appraised the liquor while asking, "Was it you who informed Xing Yongyi about the copper cargo on Qingying Lake?" Should I speak? But I didn't know how grave the charges against that copper cargo were, or if I'd be implicated. But after only a moment's pause, I murmured, "Yes, Your Excellency." I told him. As the commander of the Imperial Guard, nothing escaped his notice. Rather than risk lying and being exposed, I might as well admit it outright. Perhaps I could even leave a favorable impression of honesty. Song Baichuan, who had been casually sniffing the wine, paused and looked at me. His phoenix-like eyes flashed with surprise, likely unexpected that I would confess so readily. "My lord, Have you heard of my 3-month pursuit of Magistrate Xiao? Blocking his path? Song Baichuan didn't respond, likely because he had heard. A few days ago, I encountered Magistrate Xiao and his wife. The very next day, Xing Yongyi suddenly began harassing me. I told him everything, starting from Princess Huayang. Though I'm just a lowly commoner, I still want to live diligently and protect myself. I told him about the copper shipment on the ship, hoping it would give him something to occupy himself with and stop him from bothering me. I dared not say that I hoped the second prince would suppress Xing Yongyi, leaving him no time to harm others. Or perhaps I also hoped Xiao Rong and his wife would learn a lesson from this. As for anything else, I know nothing. Song Baichuan remained silent, lost in thought. I dared not meet his gaze, keeping my head bowed obediently, waiting for his verdict. Song Baichuan believed my account and led me to the Western Garden to sign and seal my testimony. That's all. You may go, he said without lifting his head. Magistrate Song, I asked cautiously. When will Xing Yongyi be released? Song Baichuan looked at me with slight surprise. You're concerned about him? I waved my hands. I'm worried he might retaliate. I want to prepare in advance. Song Baichuan actually curved his lips slightly, saying casually, if you fear his retaliation, how could you dare set a trap for him? I muttered something, but he didn't catch it and ordered me to repeat myself. Truthfully, I hadn't anticipated the Western Garden getting involved. Had I known, I certainly wouldn't have acted this way. I felt a bit ashamed. My experience was shallow, and my actions rash. He leaned back in his chair, his slender fingers slightly curved as he tapped the tabletop lightly twice. My heart skipped 2 beats in sync. You're the one who dared to use others as tools, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Where's the naivety? His tone carried a hint of amusement. My scalp prickled, and I quickly changed the subject. Do you enjoy drinking, sir? Old white dry or bamboo leaf green? If neither suits you, we have other options. I couldn't see my own expression, but I knew it must have been obsequious. Just moments ago, it had suddenly occurred to me, if I could curry favor with Song Baichuan, then even if Xing Yongyi were released from prison, I'd have nothing to fear. After all, he not only commanded the Western Garden and was the emperor's confidant, but he was also the young master of the Duke of Wei's household. Over the past 136 years of the Great Zhou dynasty, the Wei Duke's household has produced 3 renowned generals. Its status and influence far surpass those of ordinary meritorious families. Perhaps my intentions were too obvious. Song Baichuan's expression turned cold and stern. He said nothing, his gaze making my skin crawl. Very afraid of me? He asked. Your reputation precedes you, Your Excellency. I suppose I am somewhat afraid. My strength lies in honesty. He smiled, and it was unexpectedly handsome. For a moment, I was dazzled and lost my composure. By the time I regained my senses, he had reverted to his usual expressionless, aloof demeanor. I don't usually drink, but if there are good appetizers to accompany the wine, I can have a few cups. Song Baichuan replied. Is this an attempt to curry favor with me? I'm quite skilled in the kitchen. Shall I send some over to Your Excellency tonight? I couldn't contain my excitement and didn't hide my joy. You're in a hurry. Song Baichuan suddenly stood up and started walking out. I have something tonight. Tomorrow night. Then. He took 7 or 8 steps before reminding me. I have no dietary restrictions. I love spicy food. Yes. 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 I followed his lead, responding. Song Baichuan walked ahead with his hands behind his back. For some reason, I sensed he was in a rather good mood at that moment. The next morning, I began preparing the wine accompaniments. Though called small dishes, They demanded meticulous attention, especially for a young master from a distinguished family. Raised on fine foods since childhood, he could discern quality with a single taste. Thus, the dishes couldn't be too rich or too plain, nor overly elaborate. They needed to appear simple yet require considerable time and ingredients. Understated yet exquisite, only then could my sincerity truly shine through. So I prepared yunying noodles. Steamed with 16 ingredients, meat floss made from several kinds of meat, chestnuts charcoal grilled to perfection. Then simmered in rich broth before being baked. 5 dishes. Consuming an entire day. When served, Song Baichuan looked surprised. He pointed at the noodles. Yunying noodles? I nodded. Thoughtful. He ate slowly and deliberately. I stood beside him with the wine jug, ready to refill his cup. But he finished every dish without touching a drop of wine. He set down his chopsticks, his gaze settling on my wine. My thanks to Master Zhao, he said. But Song has duties today and should not drink. Of course. No problem, I replied. Still, he remarked, surveying the table laden with dishes. Since these are merely small plates, there needn't be such elaborate preparation. I continued my fawning smile, fearing your honor might not be accustomed to the flavors. I put in a bit of effort. It's no trouble at all. He leaned back in his chair, studying me with leisurely patience. If I were to send dishes daily, would you intend to spend every waking hour in the kitchen? I choked on my words, for that was utterly impossible. Amused by my expression, he tugged at the corner of his mouth and rose. I'm heading out. Shall I give you a ride? I hurriedly cleared the dishes and followed behind him. He walked at a leisurely pace, with me trailing close behind. The other Western Garden guards kept a respectful distance, neither too far nor too near. This procession drew considerable attention, practically causing every passerby on the street to glance at me. Suddenly, I understood, Song Baichuan had deliberately escorted me back. By the end of this walk, everyone would likely know that my relationship with Song Baichuan was quite good. Who would dare bully me after that? The thought lightened my step. Song Baichuan suddenly glanced back at me for some reason. Startled, I quickly composed myself and followed obediently. The next day, when I delivered food again, I prepared several dishes I truly excelled at. He mentioned he liked spicy food, so I added some chili peppers. He seemed to enjoy it immensely, finishing all 4 dishes and even clearing his rice bowl. Unfortunately, he still didn't drink any wine. Your Excellency, a guard burst in, but upon seeing me, stopped mid-sentence. Song Baichuan grabbed his sword and headed out. At the doorway, he instructed me, wait for me for 2/4 of an hour. I hurriedly agreed. After he left, I cleared the table and sat by it to wait for him, beginning to survey his room. His room was large but empty. The front section served as a study and office, while the back was partitioned by an 8-panel screen, likely concealing a bed. Did he sleep here? With the Duke of Wei's residence so close, did he not return home to sleep? As my gaze swept the room, I suddenly noticed a sewing basket beneath the bookshelf. Inside lay a long robe. Picking it up, I saw the sleeve had been torn open. A needle threaded with thread was stuck in the fabric, but the stitches were clumsy. I placed the robe back just as he returned. As he entered, a heavy scent of blood followed him. His front and hand were splattered with bloodstains. He glanced at me, then followed my gaze to his own clothes. His brow furrowed, and without a word, he left again. A moment later, he returned, freshly bathed and dressed. I breathed a sigh of relief. I'll have someone escort you back, he said. After a pause, he added, and no need to bring vegetables here anymore. I wanted to ask why, but his expression was too stern, and I held my tongue. Sir. I gestured toward his sewing basket. Would you like me to mend it for you? He raised an eyebrow. Not afraid anymore? Not afraid. It's just blood. I ventured. Sir. You could also let me wash the clothes you stained. His expression shifted slightly. I wondered if I'd overstepped. About to explain, when he suddenly handed me the sewing basket. Thank you for your trouble. Not at all. Not at all. It's my honor to serve you, my lord. I sat opposite him, concentrating on mending his clothes. I had no other skills, so I treasured every task he entrusted to me. As long as I proved useful, he would regard me with greater favor. This way, my support becomes even more solid. The room was quiet, but outside grew noisy. His subordinates kept coming over to peek in, then shoving and laughing as they ran off. I also heard two people crouched by the window whispering. Does the master like Zhao Dongjia? Probably not. The master is cold-hearted and indifferent to love. Could he possibly like someone? That's not necessarily true. Haven't you heard that opposites attract? The two murmured, and I tried to pretend I hadn't heard. But the surroundings were so quiet I caught every word. But Song Baichuan showed no reaction. So I didn't pry. I didn't care what others said. After all, as an unmarried woman visiting Song Baichuan daily to curry favor, it was only natural they'd speculate. But none of that mattered. In life, one shouldn't demand too much. Getting what you seek is enough. As for what you lose along the way, there's no need to dwell on it. I still brought Song Baichuan his dinner. But for several days straight, he wasn't there. When I asked around, no one knew where he'd gone or when he'd return. 2 more days passed, and Yunjing welcomed its first snowfall of the year. The 5 of us huddled around the stove warming ourselves when Zhuzi returned from delivering goods. He crouched by the stove, excitedly saying, Master, Lord Song is in such a terrible state. What do you mean? Is he injured? Just now, when I delivered wine to the Marquis of Liuan's residence, I overheard 2 of their maids discussing the Duke of Wei's household. Though the Duke of Wei's household is one of great wealth and prestige, it's in utter disarray. The old duke had 3 successive wives. Song Baichuan is the eldest legitimate son, but his mother passed away after giving birth to him. The old duke observed the traditional 27-day mourning period for his first wife before taking a new wife. She bore him 2 sons but also passed away 5 years later. Half a year after that, the old duke took a 3rd wife. How many children did the old duke have? Qingwan inquired. 6 sons and 7 daughters. Zhuzi replied, his jaw dropping, plus several concubines. Listening to Zhuzi recount the affairs of the Wei Duke's household, I suddenly understood why Song Baichuan lived in the Western Garden instead of returning home. Why he mended his own torn clothes. And why, despite being the eldest legitimate son, he wasn't designated as heir apparent. To prevent him from becoming heir, the Marquis's wife employed truly despicable tactics. When he was just 11 or 12, she began slipping maids into his chambers, then spread rumors that despite his youth, he was wayward and morally corrupt. Everything Song Baichuan has achieved today is through his own relentless effort. Sigh. Peeling chestnuts. I murmured softly. Everyone has their own struggles. Until year's end, I hadn't seen Song Baichuan, nor Xing Yongyi. I heard he remained imprisoned in the Western Garden, his family's efforts to secure his release proving futile. I had a vague feeling Song Baichuan didn't want him freed, after all. Xing Yongyi was highly likely to seek revenge against me. But perhaps I was overthinking it. Our friendship hadn't reached that level. By year's end, I had opened wineries in Baoding, Dangzhou, and Kaifeng. Of the 17 wines in the Zhao family recipe book, I had mastered 13. The once-renowned Zhao family wines had returned to the tables of wine connoisseurs. I'm heading to Dangzhou tomorrow. After bidding everyone farewell, I boarded a carriage for Dangzhou the next day. Along the way, the driver informed me that several imperial princes had been engaged in fierce infighting recently, with rumors even suggesting the second prince had been assassinated. I was startled. In my previous life, the situation hadn't escalated to such a boiling point at this stage. Had it? Even when the second prince ultimately prevailed, it hadn't felt like a bloodbath. Or perhaps, being an outsider, I simply knew too little. The shop in Dangzhou was modest in size, yet business was brisk. The 2 cartloads of wine I brought immediately filled the backlog of orders. That evening, while discussing future plans with the shopkeeper and his assistant inside the shop, we were startled by a loud crash. Rushing into the courtyard, we saw someone hurling bricks and torches into the yard. The bricks smashed open wine jars, and the torches ignited flames half a man tall. Who? I grabbed the iron pitchfork by the door and charged out. Several figures lurked in the alley, torches in hand. Seeing a woman, they showed no fear, grinning as they closed in, outnumbering them 3 to 6. We gave those 3 a sound beating, but we lost over a dozen jars of wine in the process. After that, the winery faced harassment daily. It was the Su family winery's doing. They felt we were stealing their business. The manager said, "Madam, the local thugs aren't easy to deal with. We should endure it." Endure what? I won't endure it. If it comes to it, we'll just leave. If he can use underhanded tactics, so can I. That night, I hurled stones and torches at his winery. The next day, Su's men came demanding answers. Was it you who threw the torches? Bring evidence to sue me. No evidence? Then deal with the consequences. I stood at the gate, my voice cold. If you want to keep this up, we'll both go down together. No one walks away. I planted my iron pitchfork at the entrance. No one dared approach. The Su family voluntarily proposed sitting down to talk. I know the types and prices of your wines. I stated. I compared both wineries' offerings. Yours are mainly cheap, but all are strong spirits. I observed. How about this? I'll remove my family's Leobagan and Shaodaozi from the market and exclusively sell smoother tasting wines. What do you say? The Su family agreed. The farce came to an end. Everyone praised my boldness. Saying such resolve was rare for someone so young. I was both amused and exasperated. How could I not be afraid? There was simply nowhere to hide. When you have no safe haven, you must charge forward, whether facing a mountain of blades or a sea of fire. You cannot stop. Truthfully, when I set that fire, I thought of Xiao Rong. I recall another time when our shop was bullied. Xiao Rong, drenched in chicken blood in the dead of night, stood at their doorstep wielding a knife. The entire family bolted in terror. After that, they never dared cause trouble again. I still remember what Xiao Rong told me. Don't be afraid. Leave these matters to me from now on. Now that he's gone, I realize I can handle things just fine on my own. That night, after our gathering where everyone had a few drinks, I was about to close the shop after sending off the manager and clerks when someone suddenly pressed against my door. I froze. When I recognized his face, I was stunned. Magistrate Song? Song Baichuan was injured, badly. A knife wound in his abdomen. An arrow wound in his back. He wouldn't let me call a doctor. I'll show you how to remove the arrow. Don't be afraid. All right. I asked if he wanted a bowl of wine to ease the pain. No need. Just do it. Following his instructions, I extracted the arrow. He didn't utter a sound throughout, but I was drenched in cold sweat. After the arrow was removed, Song Baichuan said, "Let me rest. Wake me at dawn," then fell into a deep sleep. He developed a fever in the wee hours. I rubbed his body with hot liquor and kept vigil all night. The next day, Sir, you're awake. Have some congee. After a bowl, Song Baichuan seemed much better. I wanted to ask how he got injured, but then decided it wasn't my place. His affairs probably weren't meant for my ears. How did you know I was here? I asked as I wrung out a damp cloth to wipe his face. Heard yesterday about a female proprietor at a wine house getting into a fight. Song Baichuan's tone was matter of fact. Yet his eyes twinkled with amusement. I figured such a feisty proprietor must be you. I was left speechless, torn between laughter and tears. So I've earned a reputation that scares people. That's fine. He chuckled softly. Song Baichuan asked me to buy him clean clothes. Reeking of alcohol. You. He stepped outside, looking distinctly uncomfortable. You had a fever later on, so I rubbed your body with rice wine. Worried he might think I'd overstepped, I hurriedly explained. I didn't look closely. After saying it, I regretted my quick tongue. The explanation only made things more awkward. Sure enough. Song Baichuan paused, then shook his head with a smile. Madame Zhao is no ordinary woman. I was overthinking it. He left quickly. After waiting 2 days with no sign of his return, I packed my things and headed back to the capital. Unexpectedly, halfway there, I encountered him. He rode his horse, posture straight and expression composed. No one would have guessed he was still recovering from severe injuries. What a coincidence. Sir, I'm delighted to see you. Quite a coincidence. He gave a slight nod. Would you care to rest in the carriage for a while? I lifted the curtain. You can ride my horse. I know how. Song Baichuan's men listened, each wearing a smile. They exchanged knowing glances, their eyebrows dancing in silent communication. I pretended not to notice. Get lost! Song Baichuan snapped over his shoulder. His men shouted. Your Excellency was walking too slowly earlier. We were dying of impatience. Now we're really going to hurry. I was somewhat taken aback. Song Baichuan climbed into the carriage. I hurriedly asked about his injuries. He handed me some medicinal ointment, his face finally showing signs of exhaustion. Please help me change the dressing. The carriage was cramped. Kneeling behind him, I gasped when I lifted the bandage. Though days had passed since his injury, the wound hadn't healed, it had worsened. You pushed yourself too hard. Sir. I sighed. Life is but a few short decades. No matter how grand your ambitions, you need your health to pursue them. Song Baichuan remained silent. Whatever you do, you should love yourself first. Only by loving yourself can you truly love others. These truths, I realized only after enduring 7 years of living worse than death. He still said nothing. Thinking he was upset, I called out, Sir? Then, bracing myself against the floor, I leaned forward to look at him from the front. Unexpectedly, our eyes met, and we both froze. My face flushed instantly. Just moments ago, I'd been proud of how much more level-headed I'd become after living 2 lifetimes. Now I'd slipped back into my old ways, acting rashly without thinking. He looked at me and smiled. Master Zhao, I've heard your advice. I felt utterly embarrassed, forcing a strained smile before turning away from him to continue applying the medicine. That evening, Song Baichuan didn't join his brothers but checked into the inn with me instead. The clerk smiled. You've arrived just in time. Young master and madam, we have 1 heaven-grade room left. I'll open it for you both right away. No. Make that 2 rooms. I hurriedly explained. The heaven-grade room is for the young master. Though I didn't look at Song Baichuan, I sensed he was smiling. He offered no explanation, merely leaning casually against the counter, lost in thought. I shot him a sidelong glance, but he happened to look over just then and actually laughed out loud. Stop laughing. I glared at him, and he suppressed his amusement, turning away. The clerk's eyes twinkled as he chuckled. No problem. No problem. We have 2 more heavenly suites available. I'll open them for you both right away. You two are visitors from out of town. It's still early, you could head into the city to see the Lantern Festival. Our Lantern Festival here lasts until after the first month of the lunar calendar. No need. I trailed off. But Song Baichuan interjected. Thanks. We'll go after dinner. I stared at him in surprise. He raised his eyebrows. The Lantern Festival here is quite famous. And there are plenty of local wines to sample. My interest was instantly piqued. But after arriving at the festival, we found no wine booths. Song Baichuan explained casually. Oh, they must have packed up. I was speechless. Want to release river lanterns? Song Baichuan asked me. I shook my head. Never mind. Just wandering around is fine. But in the end, I still went with him to release lanterns. I didn't know what he wished for on his lantern, but I casually wrote a line, wishing Magistrate Song peace and health. May all his desires come true. Flattery must be flawless. After all, what did you write? He asked. I quickly scooped up water and pushed the lantern along. He chuckled softly, muttering something I couldn't quite catch. The next morning, I rose early, borrowed the kitchen, and made him a medicinal porridge. Not that I was suddenly so dutiful, it was mainly because I rarely got to walk with him, and I needed to seize the chance to curry favor. Your Excellency, have you risen? He responded with a grunt. I pushed open the door, set the porridge on the table, and my gaze fell upon a river lantern. Oh, I murmured. Before I could ask, he had already placed the lantern into his luggage. That lantern. I began. He sat down expressionless, his voice cold. Today you must go on alone. I must hurry back to the capital. I dared not press further. Oh, then take care of yourself. But that lantern. It felt so familiar. After returning to the capital, the weather gradually warmed. Some time later, Kai Yuanyang gave birth. On the child's full moon celebration, the Shao residence held a banquet. Kai Yuanyang sent me an invitation, but I pretended not to see it. Why invite trouble by showing up? I heard the Shao residence was packed with guests, bustling like a marketplace. It reminded me of the 6 months after my parents passed. Our home and the winery were in utter disarray. We had no money, no one to help us, often going hungry from one meal to the next. So we'd sneak into graveyards, stealing offerings left by others. We were chased and beaten many times. Xiao Rong shielded me beneath him, letting their feet land on his body. Xiao Rong, you must have gotten your wish. You must be very happy now. What did you say? Song Baichuan appeared at the counter without warning. I startled, then smiled. Your Excellency has time today? Have you eaten dinner? He shook his head. Then eat here? I asked him. All right. He pulled up a chair and sat down, watching me. You cook? I grabbed my pouch and untied my apron. I cook. I'll go buy ingredients now. Please sit tight and wait for me. He said. All right. I took a few steps, then ran back. Sir, how about braised beef stew tonight? He stared at me intently, so earnestly that he didn't answer right away. Sir? I waved my hand in front of his face. He snapped back to attention and nodded. Anything is fine. Qingwan assisted me in the kitchen. That evening, I prepared 8 dishes and a soup. Song Baichuan sat down, but everyone else stood around, watching him eat. If you're all going to stand, then I'll leave, he said. We all sat down. initially stiff and reserved. Song Baichuan ordered a cup of wine. After 2 cups each, everyone was floating. The 6 of us chattered away. All useless gossip and family matters. Buy meat from Aunt Lu, her pork is tender. Qingwan said. Pork has differences? Song Baichuan sipped his wine, asking with a smile. Qingwan nodded, clinking glasses with Song Baichuan. You're like a heavenly maiden. Sir, you wouldn't understand these things. The difference in meat? Oh, it's huge. Seeing Song Baichuan was listening, I didn't interrupt. Propping my cheek, I listened happily. All 6 of us were drunk. When Song Baichuan left, we staggered to see him out the door. I don't recall what I said, but one image remains vivid, me clutching Song Baichuan's hand, refusing to let go. I must have cried, moved by the moment. Because when we woke up that morning, all 6 of us had puffy eyes. What did I say last night? Cold compresses on my eyes. My mind a blank. I know. Zhuzi swallowed his tea. Master, you said Magistrate Song had it so hard, no mother meant no home. You told him to let you know whenever he wanted to eat something. To come here. Ah, I remember now. Qingwan added. You also said we'd be family from now on. No more distinctions between us. Inqiao gave me a thumbs up. Master, your flattery skills are reaching new heights. I slumped into my chair, feeling utterly mortified. How could Song Baichuan be pitiful? The one truly pitiful was me. All our efforts would likely go to waste. I sighed. Our patron must be furious. The next fortnight confirmed my fears. Song Baichuan didn't come to the shop, and I couldn't find him in the Western Gardens either. He seemed to be avoiding me. I couldn't keep seeking him out. So I could only hope he'd been drunk that day and remembered nothing. Or that he wouldn't hold it against this brainless fool. What a waste of 2 lifetimes. I sighed. Summer arrived in a flash. And then disaster struck. At a palace banquet, His Majesty took a bite of watermelon, suddenly vomited, and collapsed stiffly. Word soon spread that the emperor seemed near death. Was the world about to change? My heart skipped a beat. In my previous life, the 3 princes had fought for 7 long years. Only after my death was the 2nd prince finally named heir apparent. Had this cycle accelerated in this lifetime? I couldn't recall any differences. Though reborn, my existence held no sway over the grand scheme. Then why did things feel different? No matter how much I speculated, no one offered answers. And I couldn't uncover them either. The Western Gardens seemed busier than ever. Men in blue-bird robes frequently hurried out of the city. And sometimes, even in the dead of night, I could hear the urgent clatter of hooves. Yet I never once saw Song Baichuan. The noble families who used to order wine every few days have been silent this entire month. Everything seems frozen, like the stillness before an avalanche. I sent everyone out of the capital to seek refuge elsewhere. I alone stockpiled rice and flour, guarding the winery. That night, the heat kept me awake. Seeking cool air in the courtyard, I suddenly heard the clang of swords and blades in the distance. I sprang to my feet, scaled the wall, and looked north. Faint flames flickered on the horizon, growing brighter by the moment. Thick smoke billowed skyward. The avalanche had come. Unlike my past life, I had no idea which prince would emerge victorious. I wondered which Prince Song Baichuan would choose to follow after the emperor's death, and whether he could hold on to his power. Anxious, I paced back and forth in the courtyard. The next day, I dared not open the door, listening through it to the sounds of fighting in the street. The night dragged on. The day was unbearable. Light or darkness made no difference to me, for I could still see nothing. 2 days passed like this. That night was unusually stifling. As the hour of Su approached, A chaotic rumble of footsteps echoed down the street before my door. Pressing my ear against the door, I heard voices. All the Imperial Guard's forces are at the West Gate. Only Song Baichuan is reliable at the East Gate. His Highness says we'll assault the East Gate with full force at the hour of Cho. Do you think the third prince is truly dead? Probably dead. The speaker paused. Once the second prince ascends the throne, we'll feast on wine and meat. Didn't Lord Shao say each of us would get 100 taels of silver? I froze. This meant the three princes' battle had ended, and now the victor was attacking the palace. But Song Baichuan alone guarding the East Gate? He couldn't hold it. I must do something. I glanced back at the stacks of fiery liquor in the warehouse. That stuff is volatile, spark and it ignites. I fetched 500 small jars, filled them with the liquor, then bound each pair tightly with sturdy hemp rope, loaded the sealed carts onto the wooden cart. I pressed my ear against the wall, listening to the commotion outside. After an unknown length of time, the chaos erupted anew. Soon, shouts echoed, "All citizens, heed this proclamation. His Royal Highness the Third Prince commands you to assemble in the streets within 15 minutes. Disobedience will be met with execution." The Third Prince? So he hadn't died after all. But with his own men depleted, he was now conscripting civilians as human shields to defend against the Second Prince. We couldn't go out. Once on the street, we'd become cannon fodder. Human shields. None of us would survive. His forces were remnants, few in number, unable to hold much territory. They likely controlled only this immediate area. I opened the door and glanced out onto the street, catching sight of neighbors across the way. I crossed to their side and told the entire family, "Don't go out. If fighting breaks out, we'll all be used as shields." I brought out the liquor from my shop, prepared a fire starter, and held it in my hand. We swiftly notified everyone we could reach through the alleyways. Everyone grabbed a bottle of liquor and stood at their doorways. Their numbers were small, and the Second Prince's men would likely spot them. So, we just needed to stall for time until reinforcements arrived to kill them. I didn't care who won. I only cared about staying alive. I wanted to live. The messenger shouted down half the street and returned as expected. Now clearly visible, their entire group numbered only 14, all wielding knives. Their clothes were torn and bloodstained. They were a band of desperate fools, cornered and ready for their final stand. I gripped the 2 jars of liquor in my hands tightly, signaling to those beside me and gesturing to those across the street. Almost simultaneously, everyone standing at their doorways hurled the jars they held at the group. This was unexpected for the attackers. They froze for a moment. In that instant, others rushed out from the houses, torches in hand, and flung them onto the liquor. The flames leapt up instantly. "Smash!" I yelled. Everyone hurled their jars, some hit people. Some struck horses. Others landed on the ground. The flames instantly engulfed them. Horses whinnied. Men roared, chaos erupted. We scrambled back inside, slamming the door shut. Moments later, more footsteps echoed outside. I knew the Second Prince's men had arrived. I exhaled a long breath of relief, collapsing onto the ground. Neighbors wiped away tears alongside me. "Thank goodness, mister. Zhao came up with this plan," sobbed an elderly woman. "Otherwise, we'd have been human shields by now. The 2 armies are locked in battle." She continued. "They care only about victory or defeat, not the lives of ordinary folk caught in the middle." Outside had quieted down. I hurried back to the shop. There was still wine at home. I needed to keep bottling it for emergencies. As I pushed open the door, I saw a dark figure in the courtyard. I froze and called out, "Your Excellency?" "Zhao Lanyu." Song Baichuan strode over, sizing me up before saying flatly, "Glad you're safe. I was frantic. With all that chaos outside, how did you manage to leave the palace? The second prince's men were everywhere. Song Baichuan's journey here must have been fraught with danger. It's fine. I took a back road. He brushed it off. You handled things well just now. Truly worthy of being Master Zhao. I felt both amused and exasperated. Then recalled the words I'd overheard through the door earlier. I heard the second prince will attack the east gate at the hour of the ox. Understood. I'll return immediately. Though I'd been panicked and fearful. Seeing him and hearing his words, I grew calm too. Secure the door. Stay inside. Tomorrow, it will all be over. He stood before me, watching me silently. The clear moonlight etched his weary features sharply into my eyes. Without thinking, I obediently replied, "Yes. I understand." He pushed the door open and left. I pressed my hand to my chest. Sitting in the courtyard. My mind felt like it was wrapped in dough, chaotic and tangled, and I couldn't even grasp my own thoughts. Hiding in the empty storeroom, I lost track of when I fell asleep. When I awoke, the sky outside was high and cloudless. Everything calm, were it not for the deliberately washed, wet streets and the splattered blood on the doorframe. I might have thought it all a figment of my imagination. Days later, the emperor issued an edict, naming the fifth prince as crown prince. I was surprised, yet not surprised. The struggle between the clam and the snipe ended with the fisherman reaping the rewards. The fifth prince emerged as the ultimate victor. But the most cunning was His Majesty himself. By feigning illness, he tested the loyalty of 3 sons and a band of rebels. So said storyteller Wang. The fisherman reaps the benefits while the clam and the snipe fight. Juzi had just learned that phrase. And here it came in handy. I shot him a glare, and Juzi sheepishly fell silent. It's fine. We're among ourselves. This won't get out. Mr. Wang said. The second prince is dead too. Chief Minister Kai and the others have all been locked up in the censorate. As Mr. Wang spoke, he glanced at me. Is Master Zhao inquiring about Lord Xiao? He asked me meaningfully. I nodded. Lord Xiao is not among them. Not only that, he's been promoted. I couldn't believe it. If that were true, wouldn't it mean Xiao Rong wasn't actually aligned with the second prince? How could that be? Wasn't he on the same side as his father-in-law? I was utterly confused. This was completely different from my previous life. That night, I had a dream. In it, I returned to my previous life, bedridden and paralyzed. I was always alone in the room, yet I could always sense someone outside the window. I asked who was out there, but no one ever answered me. I jolted awake from the dream, and this time, I actually saw a figure outside the window. Who's out there? I demanded. Sister, it's me. Xiao Rong called to me through the window. I pushed it open and stared at him in surprise. How did you get here? Is something wrong? He had grown noticeably thinner, and his rich, ornate robes hung loosely on him. Ill-fitting. Sister, he said, his eyes red and his voice choked with emotion. Just as it had been 2 years ago when he left me. Can I come in? There's something I need to tell you. I brewed him some tea. He stared at the teacup, looking somewhat surprised. Sister, I'd like black tea. We don't have any. I never liked black tea myself. I stopped buying it after you left. He disliked green tea since childhood and only drank black tea. If there was no black tea at home, he'd drink only plain water. Of course I hadn't forgotten his habits. I just hadn't indulged him anymore. He looked at me, hesitating to speak, a hint of grievance in his eyes. I pretended not to notice. Speak. What brings you here? He said. Kai Daji and my father were close classmates. That year, their teacher had only one recommendation slot for the imperial examinations. Kai Deji killed my father to take that spot. He thought he'd done it without a trace. But I saw it. His hand clenched the teacup, trembling faintly as he spoke. I came to the capital to seek revenge against him. After finishing, he looked at me. Sister, I never abandoned you. I never stopped wanting to marry you. You are the only person I care about in this world. But revenge is my obsession. I must make him die, and die by the hand of the person he trusts most. Sister, may I move back? He gazed at me, his face pleading. My heart twisted in agony. Tears streamed down my face. And without a second thought, I struck him across the face. When he announced his marriage, I never considered hitting him, only harming myself. But now, I wanted to strike him, to beat him senseless. You could have told me. I cried out. Did you fear I'd betray you? Or that I'd drag you down? No. I just didn't want to drag you down. He knelt before me, grasping my hands. I feared my failure would implicate you. If you can calm down, strike me. Hit me hard. Just forgive me. Sister. My chest felt as if struck by a heavy fist, a dull, throbbing pain that left me speechless. I pointed toward the door and after a long time, said, "Get out." I couldn't forgive him, nor could I forgive myself. In my past life, I was so foolish, utterly foolish. Xiao Rong didn't leave. He knelt outside my door. I couldn't sleep either. 10 years of companionship flashed before my eyes, vivid as yesterday. Yet the despair and agony of each day after my paralysis in that past life remained equally sharp in my mind. I fell ill, fever burning relentlessly. I only knew someone fed me water by my bedside, and many voices chattered around me. Dreams haunted me, Xiao Rong carrying me after I twisted my ankle, him teaching me to read, him pulling a scorching hot flatbread from his bosom and presenting it to me like a precious treasure. I jolted awake to find Xiao Rong sitting by my bed. His lips were cracked, his eyes bloodshot. He looked like a walking corpse. Sister, he called hoarsely, tears spilling. It doesn't matter if you don't forgive me. Just stay alive. He knelt beside my bed, clasping my hand. I was wrong. If I could start over, I'd tell you everything. I'd face life and death with you. Sister, don't die. Please. I stroked his head like I did when we were children. I won't die. And I don't hate you anymore. Rong. Let go of the past and live well. I pinched his cheek again. We'll both live well in our own lives. He buried his face in my palm, weeping uncontrollably. Okay. He choked out. I'll listen to you. Sister. I'll listen to you. Xiao Rong left the room. Outside, he spoke to someone. From now on, sister is in your care. Please look after her well. The other person remained silent. I gazed toward the doorway as Song Baichuan entered, bowl in hand. Approaching me, his tone remained calm. Would you like some water? Yes. I pressed my lips together. You shouldn't have to trouble yourself with these things. Just have Qingwan do it. He said nothing, only helped me sit up to drink the water. He tucked a pillow behind my back and blew on the hot porridge, taking his time. Is it too hot? He asked me. I shook my head. Then eat more. You need strength to recover. I obediently finished the porridge. He carried the bowl out, then returned moments later with a basin. He wrung out a warm cloth to wipe my face and hands before laying me back down. Sleep a little longer? He asked. Yes. I replied. I closed my eyes. But he didn't leave. He sat quietly beside the bed, curious about what he was doing. I quietly opened my eyes to look at him. I discovered he was reading a medical book. "Are you studying medicine, father?" I asked. "The doctor said your body is depleted." So I asked him for a book on medicinal cuisine. He was flipping through it casually, then looked up at me. "Can't sleep?" My heart was pounding like a drum, and I felt no sleepiness. "Then I'll rest a bit." "Father, do as you please. I'll take my time, just like I'm at home." He turned another page, then suddenly asked, "We're out of oil and salt. Do you have any stored?" I nodded. "In the fourth cabinet in the kitchen." "Got it. I'll look for some after I finish washing the clothes." "Master?" Nothing. I'm going to sleep." Song Baichuan set down the book, suddenly leaning close. His eyes sparkled with amusement as he looked at me. "The pomegranate tree in your courtyard has borne fruit. It's growing splendidly." My heart fluttered. He was so earnest, yet spoke such words. I couldn't help but chuckle, then felt a surge of joy. "Your Excellency will be in for a treat." I laughed. I've always had good fortune." He suddenly took my hand, not looking at me, but instead cradling the book with one hand as he read. Yet, after a long while, not a single page had turned. Song Baichuan, side story. I have no memory of my mother. From birth, I lived with my wet nurse in the rear courtyard's back quarters. The outbuilding housed only servants. They dared not defy the current mistress's will, so no one dared associate with me. I didn't mind. My wet nurse said that as long as I had enough ability, I could trample those who looked down on me underfoot. She also said they were all mere ants, none worthy of my fear. I thought that made perfect sense, so I cared even less. Everything would pass. Indeed, everything did pass. I became the commander of the Imperial Guard. Even with my tarnished reputation and failure to be named Crown Prince, those people still dared not act presumptuously in my presence. My life was turbulent, yet strangely calm. I was prepared for either killing or being killed. Until that day in the Western Garden, when a clear voice called out to me, stubborn, bordering on reckless courage. That girl was intriguing. Her feet were swollen to bursting through her shoes, yet she walked steadily the entire way. Though her fingertips trembled with fear, she maintained her composure in word and deed. It reminded me of myself. When I was 7 or 8, I was just like that. When father wrongly accused me, I followed him for 3 days, demanding he hear my explanation. His punishment was useless. Looking back, I see how childish I was then, stubborn as a mule, yet somehow endearing. I never thought our paths would cross again. Who would have guessed she'd have the nerve to set a trap for Jing Yongyi? That copper cargo belonged to the second prince. I'd known it all along. I was just waiting to close the net. But instead, I caught Jing Yongyi. When I confronted her, I expected denial. But she was clever. She readily admitted it and explained her reasons. Given her honesty and the minor nature of the offense, I chose not to press further. Yet she brazenly tried to curry favor, asking if I enjoyed wine and offering to bring me meals. How reckless! Would I dare eat food from a stranger? But her cooking was delicious, far superior to the wet nurse's. When I wasn't busy, I'd wait for her in the evenings. She'd stand by while I ate, silent. Yet the atmosphere felt strangely pleasant. She even mended my clothes. Her needlework was skillful, and I wore them constantly. But alas, I was too busy. So busy I forgot about her for a long time. Until that time when I was handling business in Dengzhou and heard about a female owner of a winery getting into a fight. I immediately thought of her. So after getting injured, I went to find her. With her there, I felt inexplicably at ease and slept soundly. When I woke up early the next morning, she calmly told me she had rubbed my body with distilled liquor. I felt a bit shy, but her composure made me seem childish, like a greenhorn. On the way back, I waited for her and sure enough, I met her. She invited me to share a carriage, and I gladly accepted. The ride was certainly more comfortable than horseback. At the inn, when the clerk mentioned a single room, she urgently explained, which I found quite amusing. She even glared at me. He froze, surprise flitting across his face. That evening, we went to set river lanterns. When I asked what she wished for, she seemed guilty, quickly scooping water to push her lantern farther downstream. My curiosity got the better of me, so I had my men intercept it and bring it to me. I stared at the 16 characters inscribed on the lantern, unable to sleep all night. I couldn't quite name this feeling, but it itched inside me. Uncontrollable. That uncontrollable sensation grew stronger. I even sought her out on purpose. She happily invited me to stay for dinner and asked if I wanted braised beef. She and her friends got a little rowdy after a few drinks, chattering all night long. It was lively, though. Like home. Growing up, I'd never been part of such lively gatherings. To be in the midst of it felt like this, deeply warm. When I left, Zhao Lanyu actually grabbed my hand, saying she felt so sorry for me, that I'd had such a hard childhood. She told me to let her know whenever I wanted to eat something delicious. I really wanted to see her reaction when she sobered up and realized what she'd said. It would be quite amusing. That night, remnants of the Third Prince's faction came causing trouble. I heard where they were and knew her shop was nearby. The winery was her life, she'd never leave it. Reason told me I couldn't leave the palace. But I did anyway. Only when I saw she was safe did I truly relax. But she was brave, she rallied the neighbors and killed those remnants to save herself. I helped her secure a reward from His Majesty and requested the Emperor to inscribe a grand plaque for her. After the matter was settled, I went to find her. Not seeing her at the tavern, I went to her home. The door was open. I hesitated for a moment before entering, only to overhear her conversation with Xiaorong. I knew about their affair. 10 years of companionship had forged deep bonds. But that was none of my concern. I loved her, though she remained unaware. I had to tell her, forcing her to choose before me. She chose, calling my name repeatedly in her dreams. Xiaorong heard it too, looking pitiful. But he deserved no sympathy. She awoke, her eyes brightening as she looked at me. She loved me too. Truthfully, I should have known long ago. After all, she had already expressed her feelings to me in that river lantern. Xiaorong asked me to treat her well. Did I really need him to remind me? Given his approach to handling matters, he has no right to advise me. I love Zhao Lanyu. Having chosen her, I will naturally treat her well, with wholehearted devotion. For a lifetime. The end.